Hey y'all, welcome back to Just Sharing with Nai. Today I want to talk about the preparation and those steps to becoming a caregiver for your loved one. If you haven't seen it, I had a previous video that went into detail about how I became a caregiver for both of my parents. And now I just want to kind of go through that whole process, that step in a little bit more detail and hopefully help you start the conversation, because that's where it starts, honestly. When I moved back home in 2016, 2017, it was, I saw things, wanted to make changes, and it was like, bam, let's get here, there, bam, bam, bam. That was the wrong approach. Don't do that. But after a year, I kind of took a step back. I started going to any free seminars actually that my organization had, and anyone else that had stuff, whether it was online, just webinars or just catching videos here and there about how do you move into this new journey, right? This new job, actually. To be honest, I think if you were to talk to anyone else that's been a caregiver, it is like a job, you have a training manual, but it may not go exactly how it is detailed in the training manual. So the first thing that I would say to someone wanting to, or being asked to, or seeing the need to be a caregiver for a loved one is just have a conversation. Just start talking about it, like, hey mom, hey dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whoever it is, if they're in their right mind and able to have these conversations, what do you want? Have you thought about, like, when it's your time to move on, what are some of the things that you would like to happen as we take care and celebrate your life? It's, do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have a full funeral? Do you want a memorial service? Have you thought about that? Do you want to move back to, per se, Virginia, where you grew up? Or do you want to stay in Georgia, where you're currently living? Just having those conversations kind of gets you started to remember, right? Like, oh yeah, this person wants this. So it's not what I want, honestly. I'll take that back. Yes, you are being the lead of this process, right? And you see things. But at the end of the day, I hope that you are respecting that person's wishes, along with the knowledge that you have gained, whether it be from, counseling, medical professionals, or whoever else, all of those parts put together, right? When it comes to learning about that loved one's medical conditions, that's a great way to start. Mom, I never asked you, what type of medicine do you take every day? Are you taking any prescription meds? What's that for? If you don't know, right? I mean, if you already know, then great. Make a list, keep it. But if you don't know, find out. Does your parent have high blood pressure, high cholesterol? Does your parent deal with diabetes? Does your parent have, congestive heart failure? Things like that. I mean, like, honestly, adults and parents, they want to keep certain things away from their children. But as you move into this role of being a caregiver, you are supporting them. You are there to help them. So the more knowledge you have of that individual, the greater support you're going to be able to give. And so I just say it starts with a conversation. It doesn't have to be one that you have every single night. Like, I literally had this conversation with with one of my girlfriends, kind of while I was still in my major, role with my parents. And I said, bring it up every quarter. It doesn't have to be a conversation you have even every month, but just start having a conversation. Say that you saw something on social media that made you say, I don't know what mom or dad would want, so let me just ask. Say it's something that you attended, or another friend had a conversation, or you came across this video and you're like, hey, I think I want to ask and find out, just out of curiosity, and see where the conversation goes. You might be kind of surprised. I will say that I was a little bit shocked when the conversation with my parents, what do you want for your funeral, your burial, excuse me. Mom wanted to be in a mausoleum. She wants the full service, flowers, the music. All the family can be there. Yes, let's celebrate her life in the newspaper. All of that. Dad, I want to be cremated and y'all can say your goodbyes and keep it moving. Total opposite, right? Like, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't realize you wanted so short of a funeral service. You don't even want a funeral service, to tell the truth. He's like, you can do a memorial service, but I don't want the pastor giving a eulogy, and I don't want y'all sobbing and falling all over a casket. You give me my flowers while I'm alive. So when my spirit has gone up to heaven, that's just the carcass that I was in, cremated, move on about your business, plus it's cheaper. But I digress. So that's just, things that you may find out. Learning about your parents, loved ones' medical history is vital. I mean, for your own personal knowledge, right? To know what might be down the line. We talk about cancer and, as we get older in our 40s, we need to start checking things. Girls, females need to start, breast cancer checks. Men need to start colon cancer, prostate checks, things that sometimes this stuff doesn't get talked about. You might find out that Aunt Sue, who is like your second cousin because that's your mama's first cousin on your grandma's side, had breast cancer. Didn't even know. You might find out that grandpa, ended up passing, actually, when he passed, did an autopsy or whatever, had prostate cancer. Didn't even know. Some things we don't talk about because I feel people think it's morbid, right? Like, why do we have to talk about the bad and go down that road? At the end of the day, we are all going to pass, right? We were born into this world and we will leave this world. But that doesn't mean that you're speaking negative, you're trying to bring down the vibe or whatever. You are talking so that you're gaining knowledge, understanding. It's taking you a step further into just knowing where you came from. It's taking you a step further in knowing what your loved ones want. And that might start your wheels to turn and say, well, dang, what do I want? Nowadays, people are unfortunately leaving us much earlier in their life than I think any of us would have ever expected, right? Senseless acts, medical conditions, you name it. And like all my friends know, I want to be cremated. I've told it to them. I've shared it with them. I've said it. I have taken enough selfies. Y'all better post the best pictures, make a photo collage. Don't have no casket open. And the reason I don't want a casket open is because my first experience of a funeral was a high school friend. And I looked and I'm like, that's not that person. So from that point on, scarred, could you say, of like, I don't want some, and I know things have changed now, right? But I don't want to look or have someone else look down and be like, dang, that doesn't look like her, So, but anyway, having the conversation is the gist of this talk, right? Of me just sharing this. It's so important. I just can't reiterate it enough. It is so important just to know. And then even you learning what your loved one wants as their caregiver, it's going to start you thinking about what you want. It will. I think it just comes with the territory because you start learning different things. You're learning, their medical condition. So that makes you a little bit more aware of what's going on with yourself, instead of letting certain things kind of go by the wayside and be like, it's just a headache. I'll deal with that later. Oh, my blood pressure might be up a little bit later. I'll deal with that later. Things like that. Another good thing to start you can do besides just having a conversation, taking the notes from that, right? There are so many apps that you can use. And please forgive me because I cannot think of the name right off the top of my head because they've changed names. But I feel like it falls under Walmart, whether you have Walmart prescriptions or not. But if you're on medication, you can list your whole medical history there. Then you can create a profile for your loved one. So I have passed this on to all of my friends, my aunts, uncles, everybody. I'm like, hey, put it right there because, we on our phone almost 24/7, are we not? And then something happen, you go to a different doctor and they're like, well, what are you taking? And you're like, I forgot the name of that pill. It start with an H. Really? So, having it right there at the palm of your hand to be like, here you go, doc, I take this. You want me to share it with you, screenshot of what you need. Or if you're at an appointment with a loved one and they can't think of their medicine, or getting a new doctor and things haven't just been processed or passed along yet, whatever the case may be. So, using technology to help you in this journey that you're going to be on is very helpful and beneficial, because soon you might be like me, where you just know it and you spout it off like it's your own resume of your own medical condition. Yes, mom has blah, 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 and she takes X, Y, and Z. Dad has A, B, C, D, F, and is on 1, 2, 3, 4. It just became second nature to me to know their conditions and things just like my own. To know the last 4 digits of their social. Bam, know it just like that. To know which doctor's name. And I'm not saying you have to get to that point, because it can become overwhelming, but use the tools that are out there to help you. I kept all of my parents' medical providers' contact information in my phone, labeled as mom's primary or dad's, diabetic doctor, or whatever the case may be, just so I would know if needed, I can hit that person up, or I can call, pull it up and say, oh, they go see so-and-so. So having the conversation is the first step. We got to start talking. Once you start talking, make sure you're taking notes somewhere, whether you write it down at that time or you come back and then you might circle back around and be like, what was that medicine again? Yeah, that's it. I just want to make sure I got it down. That's it. And if your parent, loved one, and I use parent just because that's what happened for me, right? So I'll say if your loved one is hesitant and they say, why are you asking this? What do you want to know? Because at some point, I want to be able to help you if you need help. I'm not saying you will, but if you do, I got your back, or I feel as your child, as your niece that you've put in charge of, helping you out, I should know these things. Something may happen. You may lose your voice. And I'm going to be sitting there talking about, can you write it down? How you spell it? Where is it? What I got to go back home and get it, versus we've talked about it and I heard it out the horse's mouth, right? I heard it directly from you instead of me making assumptions, because we all know what happens when you assume. So instead of that, I'm asking you flat out because I really care and want to know, what do you want? So hopefully this, start of this journey is helping you along the way. I do plan to come back and continue talking about the process of being a caregiver, and then the next conversation of things that you want to have or have that loved one start to have in place. And there is a financial aspect of it, but it is so worth the investment. It is so worth the investment. And my next video will go into, a little bit more as to why it's worth it. And just to, as I said, me sharing my goal is to make things a little bit easier for someone else. Because being a caregiver in your late 30s, and everyone else that was a caregiver was already married, kids, off to school, pretty much retired, or taking care of their senior parents, and they didn't have the same challenges of their personal life like I did, because they'd already done it, right? They were like, well, I'm in retirement stage now, so yeah, I got free time. I was still, and still am, working 40 hours a week plus, still trying to have that social active life, still trying to travel while taking care of 2 parents. And it did become stressful. It very much so did. And my friends saw it at different points in time. And I was like, no, I'm good. I got this. Until it finally hit. And I was like, yeah, I'm about to burn out. And I don't want to be gone before I hit 40. So my goal is to not let that happen to you or anyone else. So continue to please share my videos if you feel this is helpful to you or will be helpful to someone else. Just share it. But anyway, I will talk with y'all next time. And again, thank you for just sharing with me. Peace out.